I'm JB. This is the Back It Up Binge podcast. I'm talking with former Major League Baseball player Doug Flynn. Doug, welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to do this.
Appreciate you joining. I always tend to start back at the beginning, so I bring you back to high school. You're back from that era where athletes played three sports: football, basketball, baseball for you. And I noticed you were the quarterback for your high school team, 12-1 record. Did you guys win the state?
No, we got our butt kicked.
Did you really? Is that your only loss?
We got beat by a team called Fort Thomas Highlands that had 9 D1 players on it that year. And, I wasn't very good. I knew how to run the plays, and I handed it off to my fullback, Frank LeMaster, who played 10 years in the NFL. So, but we had a really good defense. We had a coach who was kind of a Vince Lombardi clone.
Okay.
But yeah, it was fun, man. There's a lot of talent around me.
That's great. You grew up in Kentucky. Who was your favorite athlete growing up, your favorite team that you followed?
Professionally or college?
Both.
So collegiately, obviously the University of Kentucky. I grew up right here in Lexington, and my favorite player was a guy by the name of Larry Conley, who played on the basketball team. He was on a team called Rupp's Runts with Pat Riley and Louis Dampier. They got beat by Texas Western in the final of the NCAA. But I like Larry because he wasn't the best player on the team, but he was a player that made everybody around him better. He was a great passer, very smart. And then I watched a little bit of pro baseball. You didn't get much on TV back in those days, back in the early 50s and 60s. So I'd watch Cincinnati and like Frank Robinson. Probably my favorite, though, was Vada Pinson.
Okay.
Who should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
There's a name you don't hear a lot, huh?
Yeah.
So talking about Kentucky, you make your way to Kentucky after high school, and you do a dual scholarship. You get a basketball and a baseball scholarship. You go into Kentucky, great university, known for its basketball, and you played for the legendary Adolph Rupp. Do you have a good Adolph Rupp story you can share?
None I can share.
Okay.
Actually, back in those days, freshmen couldn't play on the varsity. So the one thing that we did do every day, though, is we scrimmaged the varsity. And they had Dan Issel and Mike Pratt. They were ranked number 1 in the nation, ended up getting beat by Jacksonville in the NCAA tournament. I think Issel fouled out with 10 minutes to go in the game, and he had 28 points. But that was a great growing up year for me. Coach Rupp was there. Joe Hall was kind of running all the practices. And when the game started, though, the offense was very simple. We had 5 plays. If you ran them correctly, they were going to work because it was always picking, cutting, and everything was set up by a bounce pass or a chest pass. So, yeah, when I got there at 5'8" and 147 pounds, not really realizing how I got an opportunity to be there in the first place, it was a little interesting. But, man, it was such a great year and a good growing up year for me. I learned how to compete at a little bit higher level.
When you're in Kentucky, you're sitting around with your buddies and you decide to try out for the Reds. And I'm just curious, was that typical buddies hanging around and said, hey, by the way, the Reds are having an open tryout. Let's go hack around and see what happens. Or was it serious for you to go down there and try out?
That's exactly how it happened. We'd been out the night before I was going to a junior college. I wasn't playing any ball and had a 61 Corvair. This was 1971. And a buddy says, we're going to go to Richmond, Kentucky to see a group called Exile play. Exile, they were called the Exiles then, but they're a very big group. They had a lot of number 1 hit songs on the country charts, and they had a song called Kiss You All Over that was really big. So we go over there to see them. We're driving back home, and those guys were feeling pretty good. I was the designated driver. And get back, and the next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, the guys are knocking on my door. And I'm going, what's up? I said, did I forget something? They said, no, we're going to go try out for the Reds. You want to go? I said, sure, why not? So I said, I don't have any equipment here. I don't have a glove or shoes or anything. So one of the guys there named Tim Williams says, I've got a glove and my shoes, try them on, see if they fit. So I literally borrowed shoes and gloves and kind of went out there as a lark. And the scout by the name of Chet Montgomery said, you're not real serious about this, are you? I went, no, sir. In the meantime, this was the summer of my sophomore year. I'd grown from 5'8" to almost 5'11", started gaining a little weight, started maturing a little bit. And I said, no, I'm not real serious about it. He said, what if I thought that I saw something in you? And I went, well, you'd be the first one. Because obviously I'm here as a sophomore in college, not playing any ball for anybody. And he said, well, I want to see you again in Frankfort, Kentucky. So I went to Frankfort. I tried out again. Then I went to Riverfront Stadium. I tried out again. Then I came back to Lexington. I tried out again, my fourth time. And he said, what would it take for you to be a pro ball player? And I said, a Coke and a hot dog, whatever y'all give people. I don't know. So I signed for $2,500 and an opportunity. And, that's all you can ask if they give you a chance to do something. And then things started progressing a little bit from there.
Well, you're right. It worked out well for you. You get signed, and in 3 years, you go A, double A, triple A, and along the way, you're playing with some great names in the minors: Joel Youngblood, Raleigh Eastwick, Ray Knight. Talk about your minor league experience. I mean, you did go through, like I said, the minors really quickly, a level a year, basically. What was that experience like in the minors?
Well, I was a little older too, because my first year when I signed, they sent me to rookie ball, and I was 20. And I'm with a lot of kids that are just barely, they're not even 20. They're 18, 15. I had a couple of Manny Sarmiento, I think was 15 years old. And I was playing short, and Dave Pavlicek was my manager. And he said, can you play some third base? And I went, sure. And he said, well, the guy that's up in Class A ball got hurt, and he's going to have surgery. They need a third baseman. I went, sure, I'll play. So I go up there, and Russ Nixon, who really was instrumental in getting me up the ladder, was my manager. Russ was a former player. He was a catcher. He ended up being a manager several years in the big leagues. So the first game, I go out to third base, and I'm kind of wandering around. When the inning's over with, I come in, and Russ is waiting for me on the top step. And he said, you never played a game of third in your life, have you? I went, nope. He said, why would you tell him you could play third base? I said, well, if you'd have said you needed a catcher in Class A ball, I would have jumped up there and gone, because it was a chance to move up the ladder. And that's what our game is about, is, you want to go from A to double A to triple A as fast as you can. So he liked me and kind of started playing me. Had three number ones in front of me, number one draft choices. But he saw something in me in my defense and stuck with me. And the next year moved me up the ladder to double A, which I really didn't think I deserved it, because I didn't play very well my first year. The game just overwhelmed me. And then the second year, when I got up to double A, the game started to slow down a little bit, and I started learning, progressing, and seeing how this thing really worked. And so I'll always be grateful to Russ for really helping me get through that.
Well, what's interesting, I noticed when you're in single A in Tampa, you pitched 3 innings. So was that similar to the third base? Hey, Doug, can you pitch? Yeah, I can pitch. And they threw you in there. How'd you wind up pitching for 3 innings?
Well, we had clinched the division, and we were getting ready to go to the playoffs and didn't want to use any of our pitchers. So they asked me if I'd pitch. And I got ticked off, too, because I shouldn't have given up a run. We had pitchers in the outfield, and those rascals, the ball was hit. I thought it should have been caught, and they didn't catch it. And we were just kind of like a throwaway game for us. We just didn't want to get anybody hurt or use our pitchers. And so they said, can anybody pitch? And I went, sure, I'll try it. So it was fun. The way I hit, I probably should have pitched more.
Yeah, you had 4 strikeouts.
I did?
Yeah, you had 4 strikeouts, a 3 ERA. You did walk somebody.
My knuckle curveball.
There you go. So in 75, you make the Big Red Machine. You're sitting in the majors in one of the greatest baseball teams there is. What was that? How did you make the team? Was it a call up at a spring training? And what was it like walking into that locker room with those guys?
Well, as we look, I've got Johnny Bench on my phone calling right now.
There you go. Put him on.
You want me to put him on? All right.
Yeah.
I'll put him on. Oh, he just hung up on me.
No. He's intimidated by the binge, right?
Yeah. That'll add to your phone call a little bit. He's called me twice here just now. He and I, we do so much together these days. We've been doing a lot of charity work together. And here, we'll put him on there. I'll tell him what we're doing. 5, this is 23. How you doing? You're lost. I'm doing a podcast right now. Say hello to Jeff.
Hey, John, how you doing?
No, he doesn't want to talk.
He's
So I got a great Johnny Bench story if he wants to hear it.
You want a Johnny Bench story? I can't. No, there's a
No,
lot of them. They're all good though.
I have a good one for him.
Oh, you have a good. Wait a minute. He's got a Johnny Bench story. Go ahead, Jeff.
So it's 1976, 77, somewhere around there. And my neighbors are big Dodgers fans and Reds fans in the same house. It's my first baseball game I go to is at Shea. I walk out. I still have the image of the baseball field in my head, seeing the green for the first time. Reds win, of course, 70s, right? After the game, we waited around for the buses, and Rose and Bench were the two favorite players of the Reds fans in that house. And Johnny Bench waved to the mom who took us, and it made her day, year. She never stopped talking about that. And it was because of Johnny Bench, number 5. So glad I got to share.
My boy.
Glad I got to share that with him.
Okay. Can I call you back after this? Yeah, I'm making millions off of this call to this podcast today. So can I call? Well, we are. I thought this would add a little bit, people. No, it's his podcast. I'm the guest.
Yeah.
He'd run out of real players, so he called me and I said, I'll do it. So
I actually looked at the Reds roster and ranked Flynn highest out of all those big red machine guys.
That's where we are. We're just now getting through my high school years and making it to the big red machine. The Gold Glove. All right, I'll tell. We'll get to that part. Okay.
That is a question. So that answers one of my questions: was did anyone take you under the wing? Who were you closest to? I guess that answers it. We don't have to name the name or the number. I noticed you guys go 23 and 5. I can't use 23. That's my high school basketball number because you're 23. So I guess I can.
Hey,
use
I'll tell
30.
you a funny story. So Jeff Foxworthy's part of our little group, and Jeff wanted. He said, "I want a number." I said, "You can't get a number. You got to play to get a number." He said, "Well, I played in high school," and I went, "Well, what was your number?" He said, 42. And I went, 42? Did you play baseball and you were number 42? Were you any good? He said, so now we got Foxworthy's 42 and so that's kind of the way we all I don't know, we started doing that years ago. Jerry Lucas and a bunch of guys.
I'm blocked out of your group because you're 23. I wore 23, and now you have Jeff Foxworthy, and my first name's Jeff. So now I'm blocked. I can't make my way into your group. But anyway, that was great.
I'm such a name dropper. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I am too. Johnny Futures. He's my good buddy. He's on the podcast all the time. So you got Bench on your side. You got Johnny Futures on mine. So
there you go.
Getting back to that question about making the team, what was it like walking into that locker room?
Jeff, it was amazing then, and it was amazing when we did our 50-year reunion. I knew a lot about these guys, obviously, but it wasn't in my wildest dream to be a Major League Baseball player. I mean, I love to play ball, and that's why I played all the sports, and I like to compete, but, I just wasn't that good. And all of a sudden, things started clicking a little bit. I started catching it a little bit better, and I could move runners and bunt and that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden you walk into a locker room and you see names that I've just seen on television. I really didn't know them. And they treated me like a king. They were all wonderful. I knew a few of the guys like coming up through the minor leagues with Griffey and Dreesen and Raleigh Eastwick and Joel Youngblood. But when all of a sudden now you're with the big four, and that's Pérez and Binge and Morgan and Pete, those guys were just something special. They were the leaders of our ball club. And I think that's one of the things that kind of we had going. There was never any racial issues on our team. But if you were a young black kid, you could go to Joe Morgan and talk. If you were a young white kid, you had Johnny and Pete. And if you were a Latin guy like Davey and Geronimo and them, they could go to Tony if they ever to talk. So, but it worked. The chemistry there was so good. There was never any fights in the clubhouse, never any disagreements. And what I learned later was those guys, Johnny and Pete and Joe and Tony, actually put the ball club together. When they needed an extra guy on the team, their input was very vital to Sparky and to the organization. So I kept my mouth shut when I went to spring training. I didn't say anything. I was very blessed to get off to a really good start. And one of the things I did know was that Joe Morgan and Dave Concepcion were probably not going to be in their best shape when they came to spring training, because they would always use spring training to get into shape, because you had 6 weeks or whatever it was. It seemed like forever. So I knew if I came in good shape, I was probably going to play a lot early. And sure enough, I did. I started playing third, short, and second in spring training games. And I started hitting pretty good. And then I think they played me every day to try to get me not to hit good so they wouldn't have to keep me. But I just kept hitting for the whole spring, and then Sparky kept me. So, yeah, and like I say, when I went back for the 50-year reunion, there were 37 of us from the 75, 76 team. There's only 23 of us left. And it was really kind of surreal, because I don't think the younger people today at the ballpark or the fans have any idea just how good that group of players really was.
It's instead of putting individuals in the hall, you should just put the whole team in the hall. Those, right?
Well, you got most of them are in, and then of course George is not in, but George hit 50 home runs and drove in 140, and Geronimo won 4 Gold Gloves and hit 300, and Griffey, of course, was hitting at the top of the lineup. They're not in. Davey, I think, should be in the Hall of Fame, because Davey wins 15 Gold Gloves if Ozzy's not around.
You know what's interesting, and it happens every time I interview somebody that's a former athlete, whether it be a football player, baseball player, either themselves or somebody they've played with, they say should be in the Hall of Fame, and they're not. Yeah. So where's this disconnect? Shouldn't players have more of a say in who gets in?
I think they should. I do. I mean, I look at a guy like Keith Hernandez. Keith changed the way you play first base. I mean, and I don't know that I ever saw anybody play it better. Because he was just tremendous, good hands. If he could do all that stuff, he's not in. I look at a guy like Davey Concepcion, who, hit probably better than most shortstops that were there until that one era came where all those guys were hitting pretty good. But Davey was a good big game player. So Veda Pinson, to me, should be in the Hall of Fame. Veda's got almost 2,800 hits, and he's not in there. So, because my feeling, Jeff, is that if you were the best player at your position in your era, why should you not be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, it brings up 2 interesting names. You have Hernandez's crosstown first baseman in Don Mattingly. You can make a case for him because he dominated for those 5-6 years. Then injury hurts him. Then you got Dale Murphy's another one that is always debated every year whether or not he should be
National League MVP. Right?
All I know is when I was growing up, even though you didn't get the games on TV, Murphy was the name you'd hear all the time.
Yeah.
And yet he doesn't even get a chance to get. It doesn't make sense to me, but
it doesn't to me either. Well, and then you see people, for instance, when you got a guy like a Seaver or, a bona fide Hall of Famer that people don't vote for because of something personal, whatever, I think you should lose your vote. I mean,
well, that's the thing.
There's some guys that automatically should be in 100%.
One of the themes I hear is exactly what you said. Maybe a beat writer or a voter that had a negative experience with this one player and held it the rest of their lives, or it's the team doesn't campaign enough for them. So that's the 2 things I hear. I think you could level out the playing field by getting people like yourself that played with a Concepcion, a Foster, and say, yeah, give me a vote. And you probably change the complexion of those halls. But
let me give you one more name. How about this one? Al Oliver.
Oh, you know what? I was just looking at that guy's stats the other day.
He hit it harder, more consistently than anybody I ever played with or against. I mean, if he was up 4 times, 3 times, he was hitting it on the button somewhere. He was that good.
You think playing in Pittsburgh gets him lost in the conversation?
Yeah, it does. And Al was never the kind that would suck up to the media too. He just went and played his game. And
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So April 10th, 1975, you're playing the Dodgers. You're going up against Rick Rhoden. You get your first career hit. Do you remember that at bat? Do you still have the ball?
I have the ball. I have the bat. I have the memory.
There you go. There you go.
I wasn't the night before my first at bat in the big leagues. I had to go in and bunt. we ended up winning the game 2-1, I think. Probably the most important at bat that I had in the big leagues, because if I don't get that bunt down, I'm sure Sparky's looking for a way to send me back to the minor league somehow, because that's what they had me there, was to do stuff like that. So then the next night, Concepcion came up a little injured, so I started at shortstop, 50,000 people, and I remember Pete coming up to me and saying, "You nervous?" And I went, "Yeah." He said, "Why? You played all spring." And I did. I played almost every game in spring training. And he said, "What are you nervous about?" And so the first two times up, I made outs, and then I got a hit off of Rick, and who became a very good friend of mine. Rick was an outstanding golfer, and he was. We played in a golf tournament one time, and I was a little nervous because my partner was Gorman Thomas, and he was playing with Charles Barkley. We had this little celebrity golf tour, and Rick could sense a little nervousness in me because I hadn't played in one. And he turned to the crowd and he said, "Is there anybody here that Doug's dad hadn't told that he got his first major league hit off of me?" And it just loosened me up and everything else up. And, that might have been the only hit I ever had off of him, but it was a good time. And yeah, I remember it well.
So you triggered a question that I had for later on in our conversation. So I'll bring it forward because you just mentioned you had 60 sack hits in your career. And I'm noticing now the bunt's starting to come back slowly but surely. But don't you think the game misses something with a little bit of that small ball? You got the shortstop playing behind second, you got the third baseman playing short, you got this huge gap, and no one tries to slap it that way or bunt it that way.
All right. I wish, I mean, I was not a good hitter. And I tell people that I wasn't a good hitter, and I compounded it. Back in those days, we didn't hit 2-0 or 3-1. And if you hit 8, you were going to primarily, if somebody was on, bunt them over, or you were going to take pitches because hope that the pitcher would get up. It's a different ball game now. But there's only two stats to me that really matter, and that's, did you win or lose? Now, how you get there is up to you, but when I see these shifts that are putting on guys, it's amazing to me that you can take the best players in the world and they can adjust to 90 plus to hit a ball out of the park or hit the ball hard, but they can't hit the ball the other way. I'm not buying that a bit. I'm thinking they just don't want guys because they're looking to put that, launch angle into it right now. You don't see two-strike hitting like you used to see. And I got to be careful because I'm an old timer, man. I love the game in the 70s, and I love the way people played to win, however they could do it. I mean, I watch games now, and you got your 8th or 9th hitter coming up in a one-run ball game, and the guy in front of you may have walked on 4 pitches, and you're sitting there swinging at the first pitch you get, and you're hitting to a double play or popping out. I mean,
Yep.
You're not
There
moving like they used to. I just, the guys might have some good stats now, but did you win? And that's one of the best things about being a part of the Big Red Machine. And Johnny Bench says this, 25 guys won that thing, and all 25 of us benefit. And he said, nobody has milked it any better than I have for these last 50 years. So
God bless you. So while you're there in 75 and 76, you play 183 games over those 2 seasons, 2 rings, beat the Sox in 75, 4-3, sweep the Yanks in 76. Let me repeat that for my Yankee friends. You sweep the Yanks, right? Which team, in your opinion, was better, 75 or 76, Big Red Machine?
Well, here's why 76 was better. Because 75, there was so much pressure on them to win. Because you had lost in 70, you got beat by Baltimore. 72, you got beat by Oakland. 73, the Mets beat you in the playoffs. Now you got the greatest team. It's like Mickelson, who was one of the greatest golfers, but he never won the Masters. Now you got one of the greatest baseball team, but you've never won the World Series. Individually, all these guys had every accolade that you could get, all-stars, gold gloves, titles. They didn't have a championship. And so there was a lot of pressure on them to win that one championship. Then after it was won in 75, 76, all the pressure's off. So it was just as loose and relaxed. We went to the ballpark and just rolled. And, we win pretty easily. Won by 20 games one year and 12 one year. And then, of course, we swept the Yankees. But all the pressure was off. So it's hard to say, but I think 76 probably looked better. 75 was a great World Series. Boston, my goodness. And here
Yeah.
they play without Jim Rice too. And they had such a good ball club. But everybody said you never hear about the pitching for the Big Red Machine, but I believe in those 2 years they led the league in ERA. I could be wrong, but I think that's pretty close to right. And of course, if you read anything about those 2 years, you only read about the Great Eight. And the rest of us, we're saying that we knew where our bread was being buttered, so we got our rings and we got our big World Series checks of $14,000. So we're in good shape, baby.
Well, it's interesting because I read a quote about you said by Pete Rose. So the thing about Doug is that when he plays second, he looks like a second baseman. At short, he looks like a shortstop. And when he's at third, he looks like a third baseman. So did that versatility help or hurt you?
Help me. It got me to the big leagues. Oh yeah,
Okay.
no doubt. And because I was going into the games when Pete came in to start playing third. If the game was pretty tight in the late innings, and I would go in for defense. And I told people, I said I went in to play defense for a guy that's got 4,256 hits. And I actually pinch ran once for Tim Raines. Now, put that in your book. So, but it was, yeah. So it helped me because, they knew that they could give Davey a rest and they could give Joe a rest. And defensively, it wasn't going to hurt them any at all. And then, of course, in those years when you're playing, I hit pretty good because you just do. You're around it and you're hitting second. I hit second a lot, and then I'd hit seventh or eighth a lot with them, but it became so contagious being with that group, and the encouragement that you would get from their superstars was unbelievable. I mean, they wanted you to feel like once you're in here, kid, all right, you're not just filling in, you're part of the team, so do your job. And all of us that were extra guys, the Bill Plumbers, Daryl Cheney's, Merv Retmans, Terry Crowley's, all of us, Joel Youngbloods, the Ray Knights, the guys that were coming up, not starting every day. We took a lot of pride in knowing that when we did play, we had a standard we had to live up to.
So let's go to 1977, and I'm sure you're asked about this all the time. If you could indulge me with a few questions here. June 5th, 77, you're traded to the Mets.
June 15th.
June 15th.
2 days ago.
Actually, that's
don't think about it at all.
That's a great point. You, Pat Zachary, Steve Henderson, Dan Norman to the Mets for some pitcher. Throw in Tom Seaver, right? Were you expecting to be traded? Like, how did you find out?
No, I was in the paper. The guys that it said Doug Flynn was untouchable. That's what the paper said. So I wasn't expecting it. And we're sitting there playing, I think it was either the Phillies. I think it was the Phillies. And Pete Rose was very animated over at third base. And at Riverfront Stadium, there wasn't a lot of room between third base and where Pete was playing. And he was very animated with their dugout. The inning was over. He came in, he sat down beside me, and he patted me on the leg. And I said, I'm gone, aren't I? And he went, yeah. I went, where am I going? He said, you're going to New York. And it had already been announced on the radio. And the visiting team had already heard it. And I said, really? I said, which one? He said, you're going to the Mets. And I started thinking, all right, who's playing middle infield up there? And Bud Harrelson and Felix Mian. And I looked at him and I said, who for? And he said, Tom Seaver. And I sort of sarcastically said, straight up? And Pete said, not hardly. And of course, it was 3 or 4 of us that went, and that's how we found out. And Dick Wagner came in, handed me a piece of paper. I signed it, and he walked out. And now I'm thinking, all right, I don't know anybody in New York. Where am I going to stay? Where am I going to live? So it was a scramble back in those days when you got traded just to go and find out, getting you another place, who's going to – it was a mess. But, it was the best thing in the world to happen to me because I got a chance to play every day, and I still do the Mets fantasy camp. So when people I think get to meet me, they see a different person than what they may have read about back in the day. So it's been a lot of fun.
So on June 14th, that clubhouse has Seaver in it, right? June 15th rolls around, you and three other guys come walking in it. What was the reception for you guys in that clubhouse?
That's pretty quiet. But I will say this: Jerry Koosman, Jerry Grody, John Matlack, uh, Buddy, Harrelson, Felix, they couldn't have been, they knew it wasn't our fault. I think that's what a lot of New York fans think is that the four of us initiated the trade. I mean, you go from a team that's dismantling from a team that's won back-to-back World Series, and they couldn't have been nicer to me. They were great and continue to be great, and I never had any problem. The fans, I mean, yeah, that's part of the game. You take it, but what I learned early is if you play hard and keep your mouth shut, you really can get along pretty good with the fans. The writers, not so much, but the fans, they'll treat you very fairly, and they did then, and they have now.
Did you ever see Seaver after that trade and talk to him about it?
Yeah, we actually went back on the 25-year anniversary of the trade. All four of us and Tom, the only time we've all been together.
Hmm.
And Tom, he was almost like he was apologetic to us for what he put us through.
Really?
But he was going somewhere. Why not go to a team that just won back-to-back world championships?
Yeah.
And so the rest of us, so we said, Tom, you gave us Steve Henderson, me, Zach. Zach was going to pitch anyway, but he gave me and Stevie a chance to be everyday ball players. So we were very thankful for that. And Tom was a gentleman and gracious and, left us way too soon. But matter of fact, I got a picture I can't show you now. I got a bottle of his wine that 2 days ago I was ready to open up because it was Tom Seaver wine and just have a little sip. And, of course, I get all the phone calls on that day. People reminded me of how I go to fantasy camp. People will come up and say, just want you to know you ruined my life. And I said, well, after that comment, I just want you to know we're even.
There you go. So let's talk about your Gold Glove. In 1980, you win a Gold Glove, and looking at your highlights, the thing that came to my mind is how come Doug didn't win any more than just one? What was it like winning that, and how come you didn't win more?
I didn't hit good enough.
Well, what does that have to do with a Gold Glove, though?
Thank you very much.
Okay, there you go. Common sense,
I know,
right?
one year I led the league in putouts, assists, chances, double plays, and fielding percentage, and I didn't get it. It's it's one of those awards where, and I think some people take it a little more serious than others. I took it very serious because that's how I was making my living. I wasn't going to do it with my bat, so my glove was very important to me, and I'm very thankful that I won one in 1980. Manny Trio, I finished a runner-up 3 times. Jack Lang told me this, a New York writer. He said, you finished runner-up. He said, you got beat by 1 vote, 2 votes, 2 votes, and then I won one year. So, I've got it. I'm very proud of it. It meant a lot to me because even today, watching middle infielders, the way the game is played, it irritates me a little bit, the way that they go about covering bags and stuff. But, there's a lot of really good ball players playing in the major leagues. And for a kid who did not get drafted, signed for $2,500 to win a Gold Glove, I was very blessed. And I'm still very honored about that.
I got to tell you, you say you weren't a great hitter, and yeah, that may have been your reputation. I'm looking at your stats here. You're 11 years, you batted .238, and people will say, yeah, that's not a great batting average, but you're batting better than a lot of the league now.
That's with a 197 thrown in there the year I got traded.
Yeah, there you go, 197. That's right.
Well, 77, Jeff. I didn't talk about this back then, but 1977 in February, my sister gets kidnapped and murdered, and it's still an open investigation. So they wrote a book about it, and so now I'm getting traded to New York. I got writers coming from everywhere. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to use anything as an excuse, but 77 was a rotten year, and I'm surprised that they wanted me back after that to even play in 78 because my family was going through just an awful lot. And it's still an unsolved mystery. But it's on. I think about it every day today. But man, there were so many people that were around me, and that's where the Koosmans and the Matlacks and Bobby Valentine, guys like that, Lee Mazzilli, just were such good people that kind of took me under their wing for those couple of years in a big city.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. I did read about that. Let's go back to another career highlight of yours. August 15th, 1980, you're in Montreal. You're facing Gullickson. You hit a triple. We all know triples are hard to hit. Face them again, you get a second triple. Later in the game, you face Sosa, Elias Sosa. You get a third triple. Explain to me, you got three triples in one game. What do you remember from those at bats? I mean, I guess an argument could be made that a home run's easier to hit than a triple.
So for some guys, but when you're playing at 5'11", 165 pounds, and not very strong, it was obviously I hit the ball the other way a lot. So they shaded me. Andre Dawson shaded me to right field. And the first one I hit into the left center field gap. And that's a pretty big ballpark at Olympic Stadium. The second time up, they kind of moved me over and I hit one into the right center field gap. And the third time I got up, I hit a routine base hit to left field. Ron LaFleur was playing left field. And it hit one of those seams where they would move the ballpark around to make a football field. And it hit a seam and bounced over his head. So that was my third triple. And then the fourth time I got up, I got the best pitch of the night to hit. And I hit the most perfect one-hop double play to shortstop. Gary Carter was telling me, he says, man, you get one more. He said, nobody's hit four triples in a game. And I went, yeah, they still haven't, I guess.
That's the best thing and the most frustrating thing about baseball, right? Three triples and then a double play. So it takes you up and down that ride.
It's just right there. I mean, I hit the ball good. If it's over his head, it's in the gap maybe again, and I'll be in the book by myself. But that's at the time, I think I was the 19th guy to do it. There's probably been 30 something guys now. Matter of fact, last year Francisco Lindor led off with two triples his first two times up, and ended up getting 5 hits, but he didn't get any more triples. So I still got one record hanging on.
You ever hit a cycle? Were you actually lucky to hit a cycle? Because Peter Crow Armstrong just did it.
Maybe a little league.
There you go. There you go. So
softball. I played softball too, so maybe it's softball.
There you go. Back into your career, you played for 3 more teams: Rangers, Expos, and Tigers. What was that portion of your career like, going to those 3 teams?
Rangers was weird, and I think I went because I just signed a contract with New York, and then Frank Cashin came to the Mets and was starting to make a lot of changes. So he got rid of Torre, Mazzilli, and me right off the get, and then started rebuilding that team that ended up winning in '86. And I would love to have stayed there because I'd signed a 5-year contract and had a lot of incentives in it, which I never ever got to, but it would have been nice to have stayed around that bunch. I was glad to see Wally Backman get a chance to play. Wally's a good guy and it was a good player. So when I went to Texas, it wasn't very long because they were dismantling a team over there and they had a lot of new stuff going on. So I was only there 4 months, and then got a call to go to Montreal on August 3rd. And I thought, wow. So I looked over and they had Tim Raines was playing second at the time, and he was like the 6th second baseman they had used that year. So I get over and I look around and, man, what a team. You got Chris Spire was at short, and I thought, this is great. Matter of fact, Chris and I led the league in double plays the last 2 months of the season. We didn't win that year. And then all of a sudden they started dismantling. They got rid of Cromartie. They got rid of Chris Spire. They started making some changes. I think sometimes it's like overmanaging. If you'd left that team alone, it was pretty good. Because they could run, they had power, they had some good pitching, but they just had trouble. They never did win. Then they started dismantling a lot of it. So I get released. I'd been there 4 years, and I wasn't playing a lot, and I was ready to go because you know when your time is ready. So I basically, as they called me in one day and said, Murray Cook was the general manager, said, I heard you said if you got put in the lineup, you weren't going to play. And I said, Murray, whoever told you that's full of crap. I said, and obviously you don't know me very well. I said, I love to play. And I was only on the DL twice in my 14 years. So I go home and I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking, all right, let's move on with your life. You've been very fortunate to have this. And Sparky Anderson called me. He said, how you feel? I said, I feel good. How you feel? He said, I need a utility player for 2 months. I went, hey, I know a guy. So I go up on a Friday night. They're playing the Yankees. And I only had 6 at bats up to this point. And there's only 2 months left in the season. And Sparky says, well, I heard you were hurt. Montreal said you were hurt. I said, Sparky, Montreal's full of crap. I'm good. I go out shortstop with Alan Trammell, who I'd known for a while. I take 2 ground balls, and Sparky sees. He says, you're fine. So I signed to play that year. That was 1984, 85, 1985.
85.
And so as I got 6 at bats. The next day, game of the week, New York Yankees, Ron Guidry. Doug, you're playing second. All right. And that's the way Sparky was. He just threw me in there, and it was great. I loved those 2 months that I was there with Sparky and played pretty well. Got to meet some good people, go to spring training in 86. I'm hitting 400 because Al Kaline showed me one little thing in hitting. And man, I'd gone up to about 180 pounds. I'd lifted weights for the first time in my life. And I go out, and next thing you know, here comes collusion, and I'm gone.
Well, he threw you right into the fire going into against Guidry. I think you were.
Well, not only that was a Saturday. We go to Baltimore, and it's also game of the week on Monday night, and Storm Davis is pitching, and he says, you got shortstop. I'm thinking, I haven't played in 4 months, and now I get a play on. So, and matter of fact, I know that game on Monday night, I got a couple of hits, and I think it was one of the broadcasters says, Storm Davis must not have much tonight. Doug Flynn's got 2 hits off of him.
Oh, oh my God. I did see a highlight with one of your injuries where you hit a ball and it was fielded and you collided. I think it was the pitcher or there's someone
First
covering
baseman.
first.
Mike Ivey was playing first for the Padres. He was a catcher, but he was playing first, and I pushed a bunt, and he kind of threw a roadblock into me, and I broke my wrist.
Yeah, he collided and you went down. That was pretty scary to watch even after all these years. But you talk about playing for Sparky. You started your career with Sparky, you ended it, but you also played for Torre, Zimmer, and Bill Virdon. Out of all those managers, who was the best for Doug Flynn to play for? Who fit their personality meshed with yours the best?
Joe Torre.
Okay.
They were all good people, but Joe Torre. Joe gave me a chance to be an everyday player. And, he said, you're my man. You're going to play second base. And Joe was so good. Bill Virdon was tough, hardcore, old school, tough. And then Zim was just Zim. If you gotta love Zim. He was put into a bad situation over there in Texas, and he's a good baseball man. I loved him, but Joe Torre, no doubt. Sparky's one of the finest people I've ever been around. Sparky was so good for the game. He was good. Everything came out of his mouth was good and positive. Joe was just a great player's manager, and I think once he got a little talent, of course he go into Atlanta and he finished second, and first, and then they fired him.
Yeah,
and I think his comment was about Phil Niekro. He said, I couldn't hit him, I couldn't catch him, and I couldn't coach him, and so he ended up going to New York. And of course, he got with that bunch up there, and just rest is history.
So let's talk about some of the pitchers that you faced. I'll give you 2 or 3 and just let me know what your memories are of them getting in the box against them. One of the guys you faced, I think the top pitcher that you faced in your career, 84 plate appearances, was Steve Carlton.
Huh. Yeah, that was fun. Here's a slider. Hit it if you can. He's just, I got all these guys, you get to know them after your career, but yeah, he was nasty. I mean, you knew what he was going to throw, and it was just hard to hit. He had that slider that just, you see it and you think, all right, I got it. No, I don't. It's just, And obviously his career, he's a Hall of Famer and just he was nasty, even though he's a left-hander. And the thing that was good is he worked fast. And
Okay.
that's most of the good pitchers that I knew back in those days all worked pretty fast, but he worked fast. So either way, whether it was good or bad, it wasn't going to last long.
Okay. Let's talk about the guy that you were traded for, Tom Seaver, 39 plate appearances against him.
Yeah, he was good. I played against him. Well, it seemed like every time we went to New York, I played because Davey was hurt or something. I would play, and then, but yeah, good night. You'd want everybody that you played. I'd love to have played behind him because he worked fast. He threw strikes. He had such command of all his pitcher. He was a gamer, competitor, and he just had great stuff too. He could put the ball wherever he wanted to, and yeah, he was. I remember the first time I faced him when he came back in and played us. He was with Cincinnati, and I had played him, and he got this unbelievable ovation, which he should have. And I'm thinking right now, something ain't right about this. I mean, it was very uncomfortable. But once it was actually during that same series where I hit an inside the park home run against the Reds, and we beat them. And that's when I finally realized, all right, Doug, you're not a Red anymore. You're a New York Met, so get used to it. But Lord, yeah, Tom was just remarkable in every sense of the word.
Two more lefties. Let's go with Jerry Koosman.
Love him. I love Jerry Koosman. I love playing behind him. He lost like 20 games with us when I got over there. Then he went to Minnesota and won 20 and won a Cy Young. And I called him up and congratulated him. He said, "Yeah, I realized how good I could be when I finally got somebody that knew how to turn a double play." I still talk to Jerry Koosman. I love Jerry Koosman, and you'd want him on your team. I will tell you that.
Last one. What was it like facing? And he was on my show a few episodes back. Love the guy because I'm an Orioles fan. Ross Grimsley.
Did I ever face Ross?
Yeah, you faced Ross 20 times. You actually had success against him. Batted 400.
He ain't got nothing.
That is one great guy. If you know him, I'm sure you do. What an
I love him.
unbelievable guy.
I love him to death. He and his wife, him and Bird both, man, they're both just wonderful people. Just Ross he's the reason why you have so much fun in baseball is because of guys like Ross Grimsley.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
and he came up in the early days with the machine too. So he was there when they first started putting it all together. And then of
He
course
pitched
went
in the
over to
series, right, at
Baltimore.
21.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ross, what good people. I saw where you had interviewed him, and I've done some things with him, and he's just a joy to be around, man.
Yeah. Guy loves life, right? So
Yes, he does.
81, the league goes on strike.
Yeah.
And I read something that's really interesting about you, how you occupied your time. Can you talk a little bit about? I don't know where this came from out of left. I was reading this and I'm like, is this serious? So what did you do in 81 to occupy your time?
Nothing. Why?
Yeah. No, I think he did.
Well, I always in the off season would sing with the band around here, and I still do occasionally. But 81, the Oak Ridge Boys, I'd met back in the 70s, and they were good friends. And Joe Bonzel, who's since passed away, called me and he said, "What are you going to do during the strike?" And I went, "I don't know. I got to try to stay in shape, I guess." He said, "How long are you going to be out?" I said, "I have no idea." He said, "You want to go on the road with the Oak Ridge Boys for a week?" And I went, "Yeah." I was single. I said, "Sure." So I meet them in Nashville, jump on the bus. We go to a venue and play. And so I know what the papers say. Doug Flynn is touring with the Oak Ridge Boys.
That's what
You
I
read
read.
it. Yeah. Here's the skinny on that. So I'm backstage and they're singing, and all of a sudden something happens. They got to have a little mic issue or something. And Joe says, "While we're getting all this squared away," he said, "we got a friend who's on the road with us. He's Gold Glove winner, two-time World Series champion, Doug Flynn." So I stick my head out from behind the curtain. I just kind of wave, and he went, "Oh, no, no, come on out here." So I go out, and he said, "There's a rumor going around you've been singing in the off season." I went, "Yeah." He says, he looks at the crowd and says, "Wouldn't you like to hear Doug sing a song?" And of course, the crowd, yeah. He said, well, what would you like to sing? I said, well, one of your all songs? And they said, oh, no, no, you're not going to ruin our songs. So they kick off just, hey, good looking. It's an old standard country song. And they get to the chorus and they just, so I take it. I just, I got a hot rod for an attitude. And that became a kind of a thing that we did each night, to break up the show a little bit and have some fun. And of course, the papers get a hold of it, and Doug Flynn is touring with the Oak Ridge Boys. So every time I would see them now, they'd say, "You ready to go tour again?"
Well, those are my notes, literally word for word, touring with the Oak Ridge Boys.
You got the full story right there. That was 1 week of singing one song each night up on stage. And though I've stayed so good. They had Richard Sturban, who did all the Papa Mau Maus. He's gone through some cancer stuff really bad. Joe Bonzel, we lost him to ALS. So Dwayne Allen and William Lee Golden are the two that are left. And I still stay in touch with Dwayne, and they're still out there making music in their mid 80s. God bless them, man.
So, Doug, this has been phenomenal. One last round. I'll give you a speed round of random questions. Let's see what we find out and learn about Doug, right? So we mentioned the Oak Ridge. We mentioned the Oak Ridge Boys. We just talked about your month-long tour with them. If I go into your car, your vehicle right now, and turn on the radio, what am I hearing?
Bill Gaither's Christian music.
Okay, there you go. Yep. Who's your favorite artist? Musical artist?
I got several. The Gatlin Brothers, the Oak Ridge Boys, Exile, Dylan Dixon, D. Vincent Williams. Probably some names you won't know. They're songwriters, singer-songwriters. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of
the Crab Family, the Gaither Vocal Band. So, yeah.
What was your favorite part of growing up in Kentucky?
It was, like I say, a village, and a village was there to raise a lot of us youngsters. My street I grew up on, any one of them that saw you doing something wrong would beat your butt. So I think it was so good back in those days.
I read a story that Adolph Rupp was very superstitious. He carried a Buckeye around. He lost the game in a brown suit. He would never wear it again. Did you have any pregame superstitions?
No, not really. Okay. Not really. I should have probably, but I didn't.
Let's close it out with two players. Thoughts on Joe Morgan?
Smartest baseball player I was ever around. He had a comment one time and everybody thought he was selfish. They said, "Joe, you play for yourself." He went, "Yeah, I do." And they said, "Isn't that kind of selfish?" He said, "No. Because if the best Joe Morgan plays, then the whole team will benefit." And I knew what he meant. But the smartest player that I was ever around.
All right, let's close it out with one of my favorite Mets from the era that you played, and that's John Stearns.
Oh, man, my bud. I remember his first at bat in the minor leagues. He was with the Phillies and in Reading, Pennsylvania, and he had a grand slam against us. Took him an hour and a half to get around the bases. We're saying, who's he think he is? And they said, "You don't know? That's the bad dude." I love John Stearns, and he was a battler, man. He fought through that nasty stuff he had, but he was just a sweetheart, just as most of my teammates were. And if you went back and I look, there's very few guys I played with that could I ever say, "What a prick." Most of them are just great people. And that's still one of the biggest blessings of playing, is knowing that you got relationships with so many good people. You can just pick up the phone and call right now. And I talked with Keith Hernandez the other day, just see how his back was. I know he'd gone through some back issues. And, like you saw Johnny Binge called. Johnny and I we're meeting today to talk about a charity that we're involved with called Hope for the Warriors. So
can I technically say I had Johnny Bench on my podcast? I'll let you
Absolutely.
Be all right, there you go.
You did. That would not be a lie.
Not what you know, it's who you know. Thanks, Doug. I had Johnny Bench. Right? Keith's a big, and I am too. I don't know if you are. Are you a Stratomatic baseball player? He's a big Stratomatic guy. No? I got to find Doug Flynn's card. I don't know if I have this 75, 76.
Not until they start paying me for it.
Yeah, your image, right? NIL it.
Yeah, it's funny because all these games would have like the Big Red Machine playing the 27 Yankees. Somebody was making money. It wasn't us. And I think they kind of stopped that. It's amazing now how many baseball cards we get to sign. I bet I get 4 or 5 a day at home.
Well, it's funny you say that because I collect autographs and I have one of your cards, so I'm going to send it to you. Add it to
right.
I have over 400 to 500. So I just interviewed Jim Colborn not too long ago. I reached out to him and said, "Could I send you my card?" And he said exactly what you said. He gets 6 or 7 a day to sign.
It's amazing. And everybody will say, "Well, what do you do?" And so what I started doing, if they send them for people I don't know, if you send me that, it's going to cost you. You got to make a donation to Hope for the Warriors, and that's what so now I'll be sitting here, and it's not a lot, but we sort of kept track, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. Except for my Tiger card. My Tiger card. You ready for this, Jeff? $400 if you want it signed. And
wait, why
that's
is that?
So right after I got out of ball, I wanted to do something for military charities or for charity. So there was a place called Kentucky Home for Children, and they were going to do an endowment, raise some money. And I'd never signed this Tiger card. And I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we sign a couple of Tiger cards? You've got some guys that are already going to pay you $50,000, $100,000. We'll auction it off and we'll just have some fun to get some attention. This Doug Flynn card went for $100,000. The people passed away. We never did that. Years go by, and I just decided not to sign the Tiger card. So one night at a golf tournament, Johnny Bench and I were there. He goes on stage, unbeknownst to me. He's got 7 Tiger cards and said, we're going to auction off these Tiger cards. Doug's never signed them. There were 7 guys that paid $400 a piece.
Wow.
And all the money goes to Hope for the Warriors. And so now if you want a Tiger card, we've just kind of done it. And all the money, I don't make any money on it. So I don't feel bad when the money's not for me.
Well, mine's a Met card, so do I get it for free?
Oh, let's see. We'll have to see how this turns out and how you advertise me on this thing.
Well, I hopefully I did a good job for you. This has been an absolute pleasure for me, Doug. Before we break, is there any other charities, things you want to mention?
No, I just, I think God's just blessed me with a lot of good stuff. And one of those is the ability to get out and help others. And so Johnny and I do Hope for the Warriors, and we've been doing it for 21 years. And it's just a wonderful charity. And the only other thing I get involved with now is my mom and dad were put into a nursing home their last 5 or 6 years. I went on the board to try to make sure that all of my friends, parents, and family get treated as well as my mom and dad did. So I do that now. And there's a lot of folks saying, I don't know how to help or how to give back. If you really want to help, there are ways to do it. So I would encourage you, look up Hope for the Warriors. It's a 501c3. It's helping our men and women as they get out of the service, get back into civilian life. And it's been pretty special.
I'll drop the link in the description of the episode, and we'll get you hopefully some donations out of that.
Oh,
Doug,
excellent.
This has been
Thank you, Jeff.
Phenomenal. I'm so glad you agreed to join. I really enjoyed meeting you, discussing baseball with you. Appreciate you getting that. I forget his name, the catcher that you played with on the show as well. So thank you very much.
Him bugging us while I'm right in the middle of a show.
Yeah, what is that all about?
I'll let him know that.
What is that? Who does he think he is, Doug? Come on.
Really? Think you're the greatest catcher of all time or what?
You're number 23. He's only number 5, right?
Thank you.
There you go. He's got to know his spot. Anyway, thanks so much, Doug. Appreciate it.
You too, Jeff. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.